So this is actually an issue that plays over in Canada and the United States pretty much the same, pretty much equally. Since 1960, as they started to phase out the residential schools, the two countries had a policy in common, and that policy was to place Native children in non-Native homes for the purpose of assimilation. And they took 80% of First Nations children. And although the policy officially ended in 1985, and that's when many people consider the scoop to be over, a lot of us would say that the scoop continues. The statistics continue. 80% of our children are still taken. That is not that maybe we can do it. 80% is still taken. And that makes up 50% of the CAS's caseload is First Nations children. That's a statistic that just shows that this is a conscious act when you consider that our population in Canada is only 54%, and yet we make up 50% of children in care. And one of our big issues of this is what it does to us, what it does to be one of those children who are part of the scoop. It's a loss of language, a loss of culture, a loss of family, identity, community, and the separation oftentimes is total. There are some who manage to survive enough to find their way back, but many don't. And even for those that do, the social impacts are shown in other ways. In instances of substance abuse, it is shown in homelessness, shown in the prison system. And we make up high populations in those areas. And sometimes that's the excuse for why they take our children. But that's the outcome of the children being taken. And at this point here, we're seeing a third generation taken. There are people today who were scooped. One of their parents is scooped, and their children are scooped. When you think about the impact for those children, if they want to find their way back to their community, they find their way back to a parent who's scooped and a grandparent who's scooped. And that is a very, very complete form of assimilation that they have created. And this is considered cultural genocide. And with the social impact and the numbers of us suffering and not surviving from it, it is just simply an act of genocide, as defined under Article 2E of the Geneva Convention. And although many of the crimes that CAS commits on people everywhere and of all nations across this land, that they're committing an act of genocide on First Nations people is absolutely the greatest crime in our societies and although we don't consider it a crime greater than genocide. It says in Article 2E that to remove one group of children from that group and to place them in another group is an act of genocide. I would say that however they count their stats on us, whether they say 70 or 80%, depending on whether they're counting status, non-status, families that are First Nations from the state or not being counted as well. When you count us all, and even when you only count some of us, that is inarguably an act of genocide. And they were straight up killing us like they used to hundreds of years ago. And they were doing that today, they'd be brought on those charges of genocide in The Hague. This is still considered an act of genocide. Canada and many other countries decided that when they wrote the Geneva Convention and when they signed it. And what we would like to see is every CAS worker, their managers, everybody over top of those managers, their EDs, every judge who's made a decision in their favor, and every crown who's fought, participate in that genocide in placing a Native child in a non-Native home should be turned over to the international authorities and be brought up on charges in The Hague for genocide. These children need to look at what's being done to them and we need to save these children. We do need an ombudsman. We need even more. We need people who will hold these workers accountable and have them testify and have them go to jail.
decided to switch me over to welfare before I was even legally eligible for welfare. Now, the CAS dropped me off at the welfare building at 2 o'clock on a Friday afternoon and left. They were told me at welfare that, sorry, we can't deal with your case today, and we have nothing we can do for you. I spent the next 3 days sleeping in the Memorial Center, curled up in a ball as a young child with no idea of the city that I was in because I was coming from Napanee. If you look at my second foster parents, the reason they asked me to leave was because I noticed they were not giving me any of the money that the CAS workers were told me was supposed to be for lunches and school items. And there's an ongoing abuse. Like, I was so institutionalized as a child, from the CAS putting me into psychological care and forcing me to see psychiatrists that I did not want to see. I was put into foster homes, and like this here, this is an orphanage. We shouldn't have orphanages in Canada. This is a detainment center for children. And like anybody here who's had any involvement with the CAS can see the fear in a child's eyes whenever they have any interaction with these people. I nearly committed suicide because of the abuses I went through. I knew 3 different girls in 2 years who were raped by their foster fathers in the time that I was in CAS care coming out of Napanee. And that's a small community. This isn't like Toronto where it's like 3 random cases. We're talking less than 300 children in care, and I personally knew 3 different girls who were raped by their stepfathers. This is why I stand here with CAS, because my own personal experiences, I did not know how to survive on my own. I had to spend the nights living huddled up in a corner in the cold on the streets because, well, you know, we did our part. You're fine now. 14 years old. So this is why I stand here with CAS today, is that I've been harmed. I've been fucked up. My life has been destroyed on a couple occasions, and trying to not be institutionalized and get back to a normalcy, especially when you're 16, 17, 18 years old, is hard. And there is no oversight whatsoever. There's no one there to protect the children. If the children's saying, I'm not happy, their best response is, well, we can put you in a new home, in a new environment that is equally as bad. And then if you complain again, well, you're just not settling into your new environments. This is disgusting, and this is why I stand here with CAS and everybody else. CAS destroys family, and it kills children, period.
Of going to the Supreme Court of Canada. I'm challenging all decisions. Doesn't matter what I do. I'm self-represented. I cannot afford a lawyer. It has cost us $40,000 so far. To go to the Supreme Court of Canada, the lawyer wants $50,000. But as of yesterday, she agreed to do it for half price. So I am going to the Supreme Court of Canada with their decision to steal my children. They took my children not because anything I did. I have a document that states the father was so abusive, he wouldn't obey any court orders. There's nothing else that they can do. Are they not supposed to put this man in jail? Right now the issue is their father, who was the abuser, who was the issue, it's throughout all the documents. He is actually seeing the 13-year-old child. I am not. And he signed them over to be adopted. So he is agreeing with CAS. He is cooperating is what they wrote. So I am a victim of spousal abuse. My children are too. And they apprehended him, and it's been 3.5 years, and I'm still locked in the court system, thank God. But every appeal is being dismissed, and every time I hear a story, they always say in court that this is the first time, lengthiest trial. But yet I listen to everybody's stories, and they're the same as mine, just a different way that CAS has abused their lives. So I am a survivor of spousal abuse. I thank God I survived it. The guilt almost killed me because this man was their father, and he has signed them over to be adopted. And this is huge, happening right in Leeds, Grenville, and Lanark. The men are getting the privileges, and the women are actually being abused there. I don't know what it's like in this area, but that area there, they're taking the children from the women who were abused and handing them over to the actual abuser. So thank you for listening.
I am a grandmother of 3 boys, my grandchildren, and 2 have been apprehended and adopted from CAS. under my daughter's nose, and my daughter right beside me here, and the third we're fighting for to get. The first two were taken in 2011 from my home when we were asleep, came knocking at my door after he handed the first two children, and it's been hell ever since. Now my daughter turned to drugs, and now she has been almost a year clean. She goes to Narcotics Anonymous. She does everything that needs to be done, and they're still fighting and lying about my daughter. I have sent a letter and the information to Justin Trudeau, our Liberal Party leader, and I will be calling him as of today to plead my case and see what can happen. We will get my grandson, I'm sure of it. He is being neglected in the home that he is in right now. He has come to us under supervised visits, which is ridiculous. Raw from his chin all the way down to his nipple line with signs of bacteria. Raw on his bum and his penis area. This is a parents that are through CAS. Now, we are going to go trial on August the 26th to fight for my grandson Zachary. And we will win, because I will fight until I can't fight anymore, until I take my last breath. Not just for my grandchildren, but for every child that is being neglected in CAS. And it's ridiculous. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kingston, and I'm the founder of the Kingston and Quinte Citizens for Accountability. I also am one of the leading advocates with Canada Court Watch and the Ontario Coalition for Accountability. I can't really speak about my case specifically today because it's still in court and there's publication bans, etc. But I will talk about a case and a third party. There's a case in Madoc, Ontario, in about a year and a half ago. And what happened was there was Okay, so as an advocate, I was involved with Children's Aid Society, but I can't really get into that, I guess. Basically, long story short, there was this case in Madoc, Ontario, where there was a family of 7, and what happened was the Children's Aid Society got a complaint, an anonymous complaint from a disgruntled friend. And the Children's Aid Society in Belleville, Ontario, without even so much as coming to the family's home, decided that it would be the best bet to apprehend 3 children. So what they did was, we found the family, we found this out about a year and a half later, that what happened was the Children's Aid Society in Belleville, Ontario, a woman by the name of she, a CIS worker, she had applied for a warrant to apprehend 3 children from their loving home. Due to the fact that there was no verified child protection concerns whatsoever, the warrant request was denied. Later on that night, 3 police officers from the Madoc OPP and 2 Children's Aid Society workers came later on that night and apprehended the children anyway. This was against the orders of the court. The warrant request, as I said, was denied. Later on during the course of that case, the CAS workers had told the children that the parents didn't love them. The CAS workers one of the CAS workers actually told the children, after they could find no protection concerns, they told the children that if they said that abuse was going on, they would go home that day. So of course, 2 of the children said, yeah, okay, I'm being abused, can I go home now? It turned out that this was all a trick by the CAS, and the Children's Aid Society, instead of sending the children home, kept them longer. This was only I could say only a 3-month battle, but on the other hand, the family felt, every day for this family was about a year, you feel that, I guess, and essentially it took 3 months to get the children home. The children were originally in a 7,000 square foot home in Madoc. They had a farm. This wasn't even a low income or a minority family. This was a somewhat upper class family. And the society still felt the need to go ahead and do this. Now, as an advocate, I see thousands and thousands of children that are being ripped apart from their families. Ever since a certain scenario happened in my life, I've been helping children and families ever since. And I have actually helped families where children were being apprehended from their families for as little as homeschooling their children, or as little as not having enough food in the fridge one week, or not having enough pairs of shorts. Children's Aid Societies in the province of Ontario are doing this, and I see it on a regular basis. I see families getting ripped apart. I see Aboriginal families getting completely destroyed as soon as Children's Aid Society walks into their lives. I see families that are just completely destroyed. In Bloomfield, Ontario, another hard case. I advocated for one of the children that I don't know if you guys heard it here, but in the newspaper, the Children's Aid Society of Prince Edward, in the past 2 years, five former foster parents have been charged with sexual offenses against children. During this time, there was one victim in particular that I know very well. She actually lives in Kingston now. And what happened to her was she had told the Children's Aid Society from the age of 12 that she was being raped in care. She told the Children's Aid Society workers this every time she saw the worker for a period of 6 years. During this entire time, the Children's Aid Society workers not only did not do anything, not only ignored the abuse, but they actually tried to hide it. Later on, when a second girl came forward, and a third girl comes forward, and the Children's Aid Society of Prince Edward still does nothing, it took until a foster parent, another foster parent from another home, heard this girl's pleas for help and took her to the police station herself. Later on, the Children's Aid Society of Prince Edward had tried to hide the evidence. They wouldn't help the police. They tried to hide all the evidence of this happening. During this whole time, we found out in a Ministry of Children and Youth Services review that in January 2012, not one foster home or group home in Prince Edward was legally considered a place of safety. We found out that the reason why was that the Children's Aid Society of Prince Edward had failed to actually do criminal record checks on foster parents. There was not one foster home or group home where any of the staff had full completed criminal record checks. How can these people that are supposed to protect children, how can they do that? How can they sleep at night? I sit here and I see these scenarios every day, but you know what? The reality is that it's happened to my family, and I see it happening to thousands of others, and I can't sit there and do nothing. Honestly, your silence is your consent. If you sit there and you don't try and speak out, or even, for example, as simple as signing a petition to help us, if that as little as you can do, I'm happy with that. But if you're gonna sit there at home and you're gonna, it doesn't involve me, I'm not, they haven't shown up at my house, well, you know what? You just wait. You just wait one day. You know, all you have to be is a single parent or low income, or you don't even have to be. You can just be someone where somebody doesn't like you. That's all it takes nowadays. And right now, these people that are supposed to be protecting children are doing little of that, and they're destroying thousands and thousands and thousands of children and families across the province. And the child protection industry is doing this all across the world. And people need to know. People need to understand what's going on so that hopefully one day children's aid societies will be a type of organization that you can go to help protect children. Right now, they're appalling. They're absolutely appalling. These people sometimes, you know, the fact that they can sleep at night shocks me. And I'm so happy that all you people came out today, because this is what we need to do. We need to stand up and speak out for what's good, for what's right.
Hi, my name is Cindy. I'm with Idle No More. I'd just like to let you know some things that we're doing. We've been having some round exits all along the way. We haven't gone away. We're still here. We're still doing events. Genocide. The fastest talk there is still going on. I'd just like to make you aware of a case that I was involved in the last year or so. A friend of mine, her child was taken from her at birth, right from the hospital, and the baby was literally promised to a Mohawk family on Tyendinaga Reserve, year 2011. The CAS workers all showed up from the clinics in Addington County and Melville. They all showed up and they took the baby. She was placed into a foster home in Napanee, and then the Mohawk workers got involved in it, and they literally took the baby, placed her into a foster home on the reserve, and literally promised to her, to this adopted family, prospective adopted family. And at this point, we were still fighting for the baby. And at this point, it became personal for the CAS worker. She decided that she was going to win this case no matter what. And she did everything. She broke her own rules, and she tried to break the bond that was forming with the mother and the child and the dad. She did everything that she could, and she wrote up her lies, and to the point where homage became an issue. That's how desperate this worker was to prove that they were unfit parents. And she went to different doctors. She tried to get information on this couple that were probably the best parents that she could ever ask for. And they kept after them to go to different programs, different parenting programs, and they wanted them to be out and about going to these parenting programs, but they also wanted them to be at home in case they stopped by for unscheduled visits, which put a lot of stress on them. So you can't be two places at once, but that's the kind of things that CAS do to discredit you, discourage you, stress you out, and do whatever they can. We have a happy ending for this case. They won their child back last year, at the end of this year, but they're still being monitored by the CAS, and the worker's still trying to. She's saying, "Oh, you're the best parents, you're good parents, and we don't have any concerns. But here's what we want you to do. We want you to take this course and this course, and we actually want you to go." They told them a few weeks ago, "We want you to go, and we don't have any concerns, but we want you to go to the course and tell them that you still want us involved and keep a mental on it." They're still desperate to get this child. They're still doing anything and everything, but they're hopefully going to close the case in November of this year. The judge, we had an awesome judge. He was the best judge ever. He slammed the CAS worker. He told her that she was disruptive in his courtroom and making cases against her being testifying. He told her if she ever made cases like that again in his courtroom that she would be thrown out for whatever you call it. contempt of court. He warned her that a couple times. And they did his reason for judgment. There was 40 pages of reasons for judgment, and he was not kind to her. He was not happy with the CAS worker at all, and so that's good for us. So if anybody says there, don't give up the fight. You can do it. Get your friends together, take witnesses, take notes, take notes, take notes, take notes. Use those notes. They when the Mohawk worker was testifying, she said that her and the social worker and the foster mother were they worked together. They were best friends. So that's why this Mohawk worker promised her best friend a baby, and they were going to do everything they could to get it. And when we did a 6-stage trial, there was some notes missing. Brandy, Hildebrand mentioned that there was some messages between her and another worker, and the judge asked for these. He goes, how many messages are there? And she goes, about 10. He goes, well, I want to see those pages. So we stopped the courtroom. She was according and get this paperwork. They came back with 200 pages of work, of information that was missing. And she didn't think it was irrelevant. So the judge says, well, I think it is. So 200 pages is not 10. So that's the kind of stuff they do to try to win the case. It becomes personal. But I'm just saying, whoever has kids in the CAS kids, don't give up. You can win. Just keep after them. Get your friends together, get witnesses. I went to a lot of the visits. I took notes. I wasn't afraid of the worker. She asked me a question. If I was talking to the mother, she asked me what I said. I told her I wasn't talking to her. You know, don't be afraid of them. Okay? Make rich.
Stop the scoop! Stop the genocide! 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 Stop the scoop!
Our kids! What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
CAS takes our kids! What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
CAS takes our kids! What do we do?
Societies are taking the native out of children. Shame on you. CAS is making money off of adopting children. Shame on you. Children's aid societies in the province of Ontario are making $1.6 billion a year and then ask for donations. Shame on you. CAS workers that know what's going on are afraid to speak out because they're afraid of their own children being taken. They get threatened. Shame on you people. Children's aid societies are like the mafia. You can get in, but you can't get out. Not if you have children anyway. Shame on you.
Shame!
All these drugs that children are put on in foster care, Risperdal, Prozac, etc., are all psychotropic drugs that are actually unlicensed by Health Canada for use in kids. But what do unlicensed and unregistered CAS workers do? They sign waivers knowing it's not safe. Shame on you.
Shame!
They're creating zombie kids for profits. Shame on you.
For years and years, this agency here, Counter Rockaway Native Friendship Center, has been, the workers in there, some great workers. They stand up every day, they fight for what's right, they fight for our families. They help our families out with services, programs, food vouchers when they're extremely needed. And now they don't have a vote. In recent weeks, the AGM was held here, and a new bylaw was passed that none of the staff members could vote for who the leadership was. Now, in regular politics, that's okay because it's a conflict of interest. But here at the Cataraqui Waste Native Friendship Center, we are one big, giant, happy family. The Aboriginal community, one big, giant family. Mohawks, Algonquins, Ojis, Crees, Inuit, and none of them, men and women in their offices today, none of them want her here. None of the community members want her here. Only a select few. I'm not going to go on and on and on, but if we want to do a round dance or a couple of round dances, this is the place to do it. We want to show people in there, show the people out here, the residents, that we're here to stand up for them and their children. And no matter what politics are behind it, or how often we get threatened or bangs on our doors, we're not going to let up. We've had enough. We're here to say no more. Thank you.
At 11 with Braden Dragonmere.
The protection of children was held today in Kingston. Idle No More Kingston, along with Kingston and Quinte area Citizens for Accountability, marched outside the Children's Aid Society in Kingston. Protesters say since the 1960s, 80% of First Nation children have been removed from their homes and placed in non-native foster homes.
Children don't suffer an act of genocide and come out of it okay if they happen to have a good family. We do not survive this act of genocide well, and it is seen all over the place. 45% of children in care will end up home.
A coalition of activist groups took aim at the agency tasked with protecting children. They are demanding more accountability and oversight of child protection agencies.
Right now, if you have an issue with Children's Aid or any issues whatsoever, Children's Aid societies are actually they're not held accountable to anyone. You can't call up an organization to investigate them. So what we're doing now is we're trying to promote ombudsman oversight. Every province has an ombudsman, and the ombudsman's job is to investigate public sector services. Well, Ontario is the only province in the country that does not allow the Ombudsman to investigate children's aid societies, schools, hospitals, long-term care facilities, universities, and police services.
This is one of probably the biggest issue for First Nations people in Canada. This might, to some, not seem like a big thing, but the impacts are massive. It is considered an act of genocide under the Geneva Convention in Article 2E. To remove one group's children from that group and to place them in another group is considered an act of genocide.
CAS tends to target low-income families and families obviously living in poverty. CAS goes into these homes where they accuse people of not having enough food, but their rates for disability or Ontario Works aren't high enough, that they can't actually afford much food and they rely on food banks.
For the Kingston Whig Standard, I'm Elliot Ferguson, QMI Agency.
I'm coming home. Tell the world I'm coming home. Let the rain wash away all the